Hello, everyone. Good morning and welcome back to our tutorials. I trust every one of us, we had a very lovely and wonderful week. After the Sunday tutorials, it was a long break. I guess we didn't have any assignment. And I want to believe some people were very, very happy. Please send your text. Let me know how you felt without a homework, without an assignment. Let's just take the next 3 minutes and then share how we feel about a week without an assignment. So I'm waiting. All right. I've seen some text. Some people are so happy. They felt so great. And someone didn't feel very great. And then someone didn't feel so stressed. They would have been good to have one. Okay, so I'm glad, once in a while you engage in some work, and then other times you feel so happy when you don't have work on you. All right, so this morning, if you look at what I have projected on my screen, we will attempt to cover these. Some of them will just be introductory, as we'll be using some of them even in the rest of the module sections. So we are going to be looking at creating summary sheets. This is not very new to us, and to some of us, we already know how to create a summary sheet. If you're working at the state level, you need to collect data from different facilities. And then you are supposed to make a summary of the different facilities within the state. If you're at the national level, you want to collect state by state, and then you want to create a summary sheet that will give you the summary data from all the states. And then for conditional formatting, what we'll be looking at is how do you use conditional formatting to a set of records to pick out an error in the data. We'll be looking more of this, but today we'll just use this feature to flag off. That's why I said here, helping you to flag errors in your data table. And then we'll look at a pivot table. When I first heard of pivot table, I only saw what was given out, data presented in the form of pivot table. And then you need to click to view. But creating the pivot table, creating a pivot table from your data, we will see the flexibility that this function presents to us to manipulate our data. So we'll just briefly look at them this morning. And then what if analysis. Sometimes we've often been engrossed with great calculations. The first time I learned of this what if analysis, I called a professor in mathematics and I asked him a question and he said about doing it. It took him time to do it. But I asked him, what if I told you I could solve this thing in less than a minute? In fact, actually in less than 15 seconds. And then I showed him. It's a simple goal search. You have a set of, for instance, most of us may be working in development world, and then we have a target that we need to achieve at the end of a year. And you have done first quarter, second quarter, third quarter. What next do you need to do, especially if your target is a kind of an average? All right, so we'll just look at these simple things and then we'll close for this morning. All right, so Oladende is asking if this meeting is going to last for 2 hours. We have started. It's not going to last for 2 hours. That will stop when we're supposed to stop. That's about 12. All right, so let me stop sharing this and then let me bring the other thing that we need to work on. All right, so here we are. So this is a table. This is a table that we are going to work on. Now, let me hide this. Let me hide this. Now, we have this data, and this data is for a particular facility, say Edwards Hospital. Okay, so this is for Edward Hospital, and you, at the state level, you are expected to collate this from the facilities. And then each facility sends this to you. Okay, so what this means now is that we are going to have several of these. Say, I'm going to name this as Edward Hospital. This is from Edward Hospital. And we are supposing that you have received this. Okay, so let me just, we are presupposing that you have received this sheet, this kind of records from different facilities. Now let's work with 5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create 5 different, 5 different sheets. And I'm going to take this, remember our worksheet basic. So I'm going to use this and paste all of them here. All right, so I have all these duplicated in all these sheets. So this is Edward Hospital. Let's say this is Enno Hospital. And the next one is Tonye Hospital. And the next one is Nonju Hospital. These are fictitious names, so it's It's not anyone's name. This is Chioma Hospital. And then what do we have here? This is Anietes Hospital. Good. So what we have here, we have about 6 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good. Now we need one more as our summary page. Okay, so we're going to create this one. This one is already highlighted. What happened that we have this outline here? Maybe I performed an operation here and it's giving me this anyway. We are going to ignore that. So I'm going to have this, and this is my state summary sheet. And let me see where. Okay, so this is my state summary sheet. Okay, so here it's not going to be Edward again. Here is going to be Annette. Here is going to be Chioma Hospital. Okay. Then here is going to be Nonju Hospital. Here is going to be Tonye Hospital. And here is going to be Hospital. Then here, okay, so we have this now. All right. The first thing I want to look at is, anyway, by the way, since we copied this and this, the rest of them, obviously they are the same. They are the same data. So let us change the data by using our round between. Okay, so here, this is 1,200 plus. And then this is 250, this is 300, this is 300, this is, okay, so what we are going to do is, let's see the highest figure we have here. It's 1,000. Okay, let's not bother ourselves with that. It will take us time. So let's assume that we have this figure. First thing we need to check, let's apply our conditional formatting. The reason you are doing that is part of your checks. This is like COVID. Okay, so every facility is reporting the cases identified. Okay, so for this facility, on so and so date, this department reported this case. And out of this case, he recorded this number of deaths. This recovered. This were in isolation center, and these were in intensive care unit. So when you look at this, you know that the sum of these 4 should give you this. Because this is a total case, and this is the disaggregation, how they are disaggregated. So we believe that these ones here are the active cases, and this is the confirmed cases. So there might be data errors. And if you go ahead to analyze this without checking for those data error, you may be presenting a data that, an information that is not right. So I am going to apply conditional formatting to flag off any record that does not match this plus this plus this plus this. So my conditional formatting is here. This is what I am going to use. When you open here, there are several features that you can use. each one of them has subgroups, subgroups, subgroups. And if assuming you are not satisfied with any of these, you may decide to create your own rule. All right, so we are interested in here. So I am going to highlight this. Now, as we do this, there are errors that are bound to be made. So we'll be identifying some of those errors so that it will guide against future when you are working on them and then you get the errors. So I'm going to start from here. I'm going to manage. Now, I'm going to get a new rule. The reason that you are used here is because on this same selected cells or range, I may need to apply more than one rule. So they have the ability to accommodate several conditional formatting, and they'll still give you the same, give you what you want, provided that they do not contradict one another. Okay, so I am going to choose this one. A new rule that I want to use is format only cells that contain. You can use any one, but for the purpose of what we want to demonstrate, this is the one I am going to use. Format cells that contain. Then what is the description? I want any cell value which is not equal to, what is it? If it's not equal to this plus this plus this plus this, that's what I want. I am saying that if the cell here that I have highlighted, any one of the cells, that if you add these values here, E, F, G, H, 1, if it does not equal to this sum, please format it. Now, what do I want it to format? I click here. I want it to fill the cell with red. I OK it. I do this. Then if I apply, it will tell me. Now, I have run into an error. The reason is, let me show you something. I'll come back to this. Just look at this cell reference. That's why we discuss about relative and absolute cell referencing at the beginning of our tutorial. Okay, so I am done. We say that a computer is garbage in, garbage out. This is not wrong, but what you have imputed may be the fault. Now, let's look at this. What is the total of this? When you select cells, it tells you the total. When you look at the sum here, down here, you will see it's 1,260. But here is 1,261. So it highlights this one. Ordinarily, this is the only one that it should highlight if the rest are correct. But now let's see if the rest are correct. This, highlighting all the 4 cells, gives us 787. And we have 787. This shouldn't have been marked wrong. It shouldn't have been flagged off as wrong. So what's the problem? Now let's look again. Here is giving us 928. This is 928. But why is it highlighting it wrong? So now let's go back to our rule. I click here. I manage my rules. This is what. Now, when you look at this, you are saying cell value E and E4. Let me edit this so that it will be open. We are saying E4, F4, G4, and H4. And you are making absolute reference to these cells. That is the problem. So what we are saying is that this one, go up and look at this point. If they are not equal to you, to this cell, you should not highlight it. That's why it's highlighting it. Now, let's see. If we need to remove all this and we press our F4, okay? So this S values, which means this one will look at this one will look at this. Apply. So we have separated the absolute cell referencing. The only thing that we allow to remain is the cell range, which we are not going beyond this, so we let this be. But the cell value that you are adding is no longer in absolute cell referencing. So we okay it. Now let's check. This plus this plus this plus this is 1260, but we have 1261. So it has flagged this off for you. You now know there is an error here. You can contact this facility and ask that you have so and so record that is flagged from the pharmacy. They should check that. So you are not straight away going to work on this data. What you are working on is on the pharmacy that has error. All right, so when we check the other ones that are flagged, we can also find out, for instance, this one is 787, which is correct. This one, 928, which is correct. This one, 920, which is correct. So let's see what is wrong here. This is 1187, this is 1186. So we'll be able to place a conditional formatting here that makes it easy for us to follow up. So what if I now change here to 1260, the flag clears. All right, so once you will know how to do this, you apply it across all the facilities. And then that way you are cleaning your data. All right, so I believe you now know how to apply this at the rest. So now let's go ahead and create our summary sheet. Now remember that each of these is a duplicate, is a replicate of it's asking, where are you picking the total you are referring to as comparison from? Is it at the bottom of the screen? No. What I am, in Excel, when you highlight a group of cells, that contain number, it gives you some certain information based on your selection. Here, because I want to be seen, I want it to show average, showing me the average of my selection is 315. The count is 4 because there are 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the sum is this. So what I am seeing under here, I hope you can see my screen here. I hope you see my screen here. That is what I am looking at as my sum, comparing it with this D value, the values in column D. Okay, so that is how we're able to get that. Okay. So we continue. We were saying that each of these sheets has the same thing across. So it's a template you shared to each facility in the state, and they have supplied you with this. So what we need to do is we are going to come here, and we are going to delete all this because this is our summary sheet. We are going to delete all this, and we want this to collect all the respective cases from each facility and sum it up here. We also needed to sum the deaths to sum the recovery, to sum the number in isolation camps, and to sum up all the cases that are intensive care units. Great. So what I'm going to do is, irrespective of how many sheets that you have here, you could have up to 100, you could have up to 200 sheets if they are up to that number of facilities that you're managing. All I need to do is, here, I'm going to be equals. Equals what? Equals sum. Now I click this first one, I hold down my shift and select the last one just before my summary sheet. So I'm going to make a reference to all of them by simply clicking here and I enter. That is all. So if you look at here, it's going to tell you that you are summing. This cell is giving you a summary of, when you see this in Excel, you see this single quotation mark or apostrophe closing on a range. It's telling you that that is the name of a sheet. So it's saying it's a summary of the sheet beginning from Edward Hospital to, see this column, to Aniete Hospital, and with cell reference on D4. So this is, you see this is the reference to the cell. So it's picking the D4 from each of these worksheets and summing them and giving you this. And once I've done this, all I need to do is I drag my formula to this point, I double click, and it brings down the rest. So here it's not telling me that we are summing all the values in D30. This is my D, this is my 30. You are summing it and you're picking them from Edward. Is a sheet range from Edward Hospital to Aniete Hospital. And this is the same thing that happens. Because we did not lock this cell, so it's making reference relatively to the cell. Okay, so if you are managing 1,000 sheets, 1,000 facility, and then you have all of them done this way, you are going to easily get a summary of whatever you are collating. So this is the same thing you do with any function. Here, you write your function is equals to this. We have dealt with some functions. And then I am simply clicking and making reference to. I click, and then I hold down my shift to select all the sheets that I want to include in this, my summary. Assuming that I wanted to get some hospitals, for instance, now let me put, for instance, here, I am changing this tab to green, changing this one to green. Okay, this is not the same green that I chose here, and I'm choosing this one. Good. And in my summary sheet here, I want to get the cases for these hospitals. Maybe these are specialist hospitals, and then these ones are general hospitals. So if the question is asking, please get the total cases from specialist hospitals. Remember, these are the specialist hospitals. So all I need to do is come here and I say, okay, I can get this here. So this is for my specialist hospital. Let me also change this to green, okay? So these are for my specialist hospital, and I say they are interested in the cases. So I put equals to sum. I click this one. I am going to hold down my control, not my shift. I'm holding control because I am now selecting in hospitals. They are not in a straight line that I can select all. So I'm holding up my control. Okay, it looks okay. So I just realized you may not be able to do this selection using your control. I'm just realizing this, but I'll find out if there is something wrong that is making it not to select. But in any case, if that is what you want, then you can remember that we can move our sheets this way and say this is equals to sum now. I'm clicking this one. Sorry. I'm actually supposed to. But this should be where we have a, okay, I think it was an error. Okay. Let's pick this one and drop it here. Let's see. Let me move this things back and see if it was because we had an error. Let me see. So if we are looking for a case here, the total, so we are going to say this is sum of this. So I'm selecting this, holding down my, so I think it's the same issue. All right, so if I need to do selective sheets, I can move them this way, but I still need to look at my, I still need to look at this thing to find out if truly we cannot do that, because I'm not sure. So this is this, and then we select this one, holding our shift down, we select this, and then find an error with one or more. Okay. Could this be a secular reference or what? Let me see. We have Edward to Tonye. So what's the problem? Okay. Let me see here. Edward to Anita. Okay. The problem is, you know, from here, if you look at this point, is making reference to Edward to Annette. Okay, that is, it's stopping here. So there's going to be some problem when we begin to move the data and then now want to impute another data. Okay, so supposing to demonstrate this, let me select this and then, sorry, let's pick this one here. This is what we have. I'm dropping it here, okay? This is a new one. This is sheet. No, the cell address, I don't need to pick it first. That is the last one that we need to pick before entering. Okay, so let's assume that we have this one, and let me use another system to get the, okay. Let me get more of this. I'm dropping it here. Good. So we are now going, we are interested in this. Let me highlight this one as red. Highlight this one as red. Okay. Let me move forward and highlight this one as red. So these are the ones that we are interested in. Okay, so all I need to do is to get my summary sheet here. Good. So this is summary for teaching hospitals, okay? So assuming these are the teaching hospitals, so I just want to find out again if when we are performing a function, we must only select within in a congruent sheet. So I'm going to say this is sum of this. So let me try this again. All right, so it's true, we may not be able to do that. Okay, so this is also an issue that one needs to one needs to figure out and come up with a solution. There are several problems around the world with Excel, the use of Excel. People, if you're in the community, you see people saying, I want to do this, I want to do this, I couldn't do this. Somebody will respond, well, Excel does not have that feature, but if you need to do that, you need to do this, There are a lot of manipulation, or they will ask you that this company has made an add-on that can handle that. Okay, so this is one area that I need to research. I haven't tried this before. All right, so I guess the best way to do is to jiggle this thing, move your sheet around, bring them together, bring them together like this, and then make your selection this way. I think the reason is, I think one of the reasons is, if you look at this summary sheet here, it's giving you a range. It's giving you this column, which is a range, okay? Except, now, let me do something. Let me do something now. Assuming I want this thing here, so I am looking for some, okay? I click here, this is what I want. Let me see. I want this. Can you see what I'm doing? I'm using a comma now. I'm using this, and then let me see if this works. Okay. Sheet this. Okay. All right. I'll think through this, and then let us know if our best bet is only to now come over and do this. Okay, because I don't want to click and click. Otherwise, the other thing is to do this, say sum, then you come here, you click this one, you come here, you click this one, you come here, you click this one, and you enter, you get the answer. This is a long way for me. I'm trying to look for a shortcut. Okay, so I'll still look around that if there is a shorter way that we can actually make reference just like this. But basically, if you have a range of cells, of sheets that you need to sum up their values or get the multiplication, the product of something values, this is the way to go, and it shortens your time, not just by 50%. You can imagine if you have 100 sheets and you need to begin to pick. I suffered from this for a very long time. I didn't know. But the moment I got to know this, what I will spend 1 hour looking at or linking the sheets from up to 100 sheets, it took me less than a minute to do that. So this is one thing that we can be very, very happy to learn. Okay, so we'll be doing more of that in the course of this module 4. So I'll quickly, like I told us, these are just the introductory part of this module. So we are going to look at, somebody said, how did you change from absolute cell referencing to conditional when you are through with this? Conditional, no. It's a different thing. Absolute cell referencing is different from conditional formatting. What I simply said was, for Edward Hospital, we used it to know how we can use conditional formatting. Okay, you are making reference, okay, relative referencing, okay, good. So what I simply did was to select those cells that are they are locked. I selected them and I had to remove those dollar signs. From my own system, I use F4 function button 4 F4. So your system may have a different configuration on the keyboard. It might have different layouts. Okay, so during the time we were dealing with this, some people said their own, you needed to press FN to be able to activate that function 4. Others say it's control, others is shift. So depending on the layout that your system is using, you should be able to do this. Okay, so I want to briefly discuss or introduce us to pivot tables. Pivot tables, they are very great way to exercise flexibility in the manipulation of your data. Okay, so let me go. By the way, let me just tell us something that if you have several sheets, for instance, I have added several sheets and they are all hiding on this right-hand side of my system. There are up to 37 sheets, okay? If you need to do anything in the very first sheet, you have only one click to get to the end. And that is by holding down, look at now, what is showing is sheet 37, which is the very last one on my right. But I want to go to the very beginning on my left. So I hold down my control button and I click this arrow here and it takes me right to the very end. Okay, so this is one great shortcut that will help you rather than clicking like this and then you are just clicking, then going till you get to the end. Okay, the end may not come so soon. All right, so there is something I want to do with this one. I've come here. Now, this TBS, okay, so what I need to do, I want to hide all these ones. I click here, it comes here. I hold down my control. I click end, it comes here. So I want to hide all these ones. 36, I'm hiding all of them. I have this only. Okay, unfortunately, I don't have what I wanted to use on. So let me unhide. Let me pick any of the sheet where I have, let's say I'm picking this one because I need this data. So I'm going to drop it on my sheet 37. Then let me go back and hide this one back. Okay, so I want to work on this sheet, just want to demonstrate the flexibility that we have in PivotTable, but I don't want this thing to continue to apply. All I need to do, I can click all these places, come under my conditional formatting. I'm going to clear the rules. Clear the rules where if you clear from the entire sheet, that means wherever you had made applied conditional formatting, it will be cleared from there. But I'm interested in the selected cells. So when I click it, those red flags will go away. So there's no more conditional formatting here. Good. Now, I would like to use this opportunity that we want to introduce PivotTable to talk about table itself. So I'm going to delete this one. I'm going to delete this, my last table here. Now, when you are working with PivotTable, when you want to develop a PivotTable, please make sure there are some rules. Make sure you don't have any empty cell. You may run into problem if you don't. You need to be very, very vast in PivotTable to be able to handle cells without any number. For instance, here is empty. You check. You would need to find out if there are any cells that are empty. And you can use that. You can use your conditional formatting to highlight empty cells. And those things you can put 0. It's better you put 0. 0 is a number. You put 0 in those things. Okay, that's rule number 1. Of course, we know that there shouldn't be empty rows. There shouldn't be empty columns. Now, you can work with your data set like this, data table like this, without converting it to table, but it is better to convert it to table. Now, looking at this is really not a table per se. Even if you put this in, it's not table per se, okay? But I'm going to convert this to a table. Now, I have clicked inside here. I'm going to convert this to a table. You say I'm breaking. Okay, Edward, are you the only one? Or please, am I breaking now? Can others let me know? I'm waiting to hear if I'm breaking or if it's just Edward that is not hearing me very well. Okay, you can hear me clearly. All right, all right, all right. So Edward, it's possible it may be your network. Okay, so, okay. So right now, I am going to look at my tab here. I'm going to click this insert. Like I say, when you are converting your data into table format, I mean, when you're working with a pivot table, it's better to work it with your data in table. Not that anything is wrong, but it will give you a lot of features. So I am going to click here, table, and then it's asking me, where is the source of my data table? It's already predicting by these dashed lines. Let me check if it took, yes, everything is at the end. I remember in one of our listings, we said, because Excel sees all your data that has no empty columns or empty rows as a table. So it's going to look at that for your selection. And again, my table has headers. I'm going to click this. All right, so that I will enjoy those features that table has. Now, when I click OK, you see, with this now, I can change the format to any one I like. Once your table, once what you're working with is in table, you have these features, the design features. See the design features, okay? So depending on the one you love, the one that is catchy to you, the one you really want to use, you can really now choose. So let me choose this. Okay, so I'm going to remove this, the original color that I put before. Okay. I have removed the original color, cell color. This is what it comes to now. Okay. So this is beautiful, you would say. Now, I am going to go ahead and insert my pivot table. Note that once you convert your data to table, automatically this is inserted. So it's easy for you to filter your table. All right. Now, pivot table is a feature that helps you to do a lot of filters. It helps you to do a lot of manipulations, just like the word pivot is a table that has a fulcrum that you can turn around, and you can never really be wrong with pivot table. You keep toggling around to see what they give you until you find what you want. All right, so I am going to click inside this. Remember that I have decided I put this empty row to let Excel know that this name of facility is not part of my table. I've also not allowed anything to be by the side. And the same thing, that was why also we deleted that, our summary or total page, total row there. Now, one thing about Excel, this table is, if you want to increase, all you need to do is, for instance, if this is all that you need and you realize that you need more columns. So if you click and drag sideways, everything is duplicated. The design and everything is duplicated. And because you say your table has columns, it's telling you column 1, column 2. So you can rename this, you can rename this, you can rename this. Another way is if you click here, this is the beginning of the table, and you click enter, and you're writing a date, say 12/12/2022, and you enter. It's going to continue with the same formatting, 12/12/2021. It's going to continue. See? So this is one great feature that your table has. All right. I know that we may have worked with data presented in this kind of format. I will begin to wonder, did it really take time? Like I did actually. Did this person take time to actually highlight these cells alternately and then put the fields, the color fields? Okay, so we are going to look at the pivot table right now. We are still going to insert. This is my pivot table. When I click my pivot table is now predicting if this is what I want. Okay, this seems to be okay. And I'm going to put it in a new sheet. By default, this happens. I will also advise that until you are very, very vast with pivot table, do not put it on the same sheet because of the issues that go with table and empty rows, empty columns, and stuff like that. So we are going to get a new sheet. And then when you click this, it opens to a new, it creates a new sheet and adds it. Okay? So this is it. This is my table, which now comes in this format. Now, let me delete this, and then I'll show you something. Now I am going back to insert pivot table. Now, if you see the selection saw this as a table with headers. So it's not picking this because these headers are also going to be separate. They are going to deal with them separately as headers in your pivot table. So I just wanted to point that out. So when we click OK, it creates this on a new sheet. So let's just rename this as our pivot table. Now, this pivot table looks empty. And of course, it can even look emptier when you click outside. There is no panel here. This is the panel. The panel that is here on my right here is what you use to manipulate. And I can bring that out by clicking inside this pivot table. We seem to be having a noise. Sorry, I need to mute everyone, please. Okay. So if I click inside this pivot table, this my pivot field becomes active and I can move it. It's a floating panel. You can move it to wherever you want. Right now, it is here and it is smaller. If I put it here, it is smaller. But the moment I bring it to this right side now, it fits into this by default. Now, let's see how this works. If I drop by default, anyone you click here, these are my headers. These are my headers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. When I come here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So my headers are here. Now, the thing about these headers is that, for instance, this date can further be grouped. Okay, it can further be grouped. We'll still discuss more of these as we go on in the pivot table. Now, by default, anyone that contains numbers, they ordinarily come under this summation values. For instance, now, date comes here, and these are it groups by year, by quarter, by date. By default, this is the group. And so depending on what you want, if you look at this point here, what has formed, I click date, date comes here. All my text will come here, but the numbers will come here automatically until you do otherwise. Now, by simply clicking table, see what my pivot table has done. It has arranged based on years. And when you see this plus, it means it is still collapsible. So when I open this, it's displaying Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 of 2009. When I open here, it displays the same thing. This of each of them has a collapsible and expandable feature. When I click here, this is Q1, January, February, March. I did not impute this. You and I know that this was all that we collected. So if you have a question, say, okay, please, can you identify the cases in Q1? It becomes difficult. Even though you can do it, it becomes difficult because the dates are not specified quarter per quarter. So when you apply your pivot table, you'll be able to identify. Now, for instance, they say case by case. So assuming we decided to answer that question, we click this case. Like I told you, it contains number. It automatically comes down here. So case by case, this is my Q1. And this Q1 is distributed January this, February this, March this, for Q1 of 2019. Let's see what we have in Q2. For Q2, we only have a case occurring in May. For Q3, we have a case occurring in September. In Q4, we have entries occurring for these 3 months in Q4. So this helps you to answer a question. Answering that question, I do not need to come and start looking at, this is August of 2000 and this is May. Is May and August in the same quarter? I start writing January, February, March, first quarter, April, May, June, second quarter. Okay, this is second quarter, this is third quarter. You know, stuff like that. But with this pivot table, as far as date is concerned, it gives you this. If you have a case, another question, say, how many deaths occur in first quarter, or arrange them as quarter by quarter? I can click here, I remove it, and I bring my death. I drag it and keep here. It tells me this. I don't need to do much work. I don't need to do much thinking. I have set up a pivot table that will help me to analyze and give me my reports. So if I want, now let's look at something now. We are interested in only in the quarters. See? So we have Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. Let's remove the date. Q1, Q2, Q3. Now, this is for all the years. This value is for all the years. All right. Let me remove this. I want to now see department. See my department. This department is on the roll. You see them, this is the rows. And the figure you put in here is what you have here against each, against each, against each. Now, assuming I want to now look at the death, the cases. So let me bring all this. Here we have case, death, recovery, isolation, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These 5 parameters for our case. So we have death, we have cases. See, it has added here. We have recovery, is added. We have isolation, is added. We have ICU, is added. What's the other one? Okay, no, I don't know. So this is all I need. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I am done. This is what the question asks for. Identifying, arranging all these things by department. So I can actually relabel here and write department. And here, this is the sum. Now, assuming that you are now asked, what is the average depth? Average depth per, average value of the depth by department. So I remove this. I want to deal with average depth, for instance. Spread, this is the sum. All the people that died from A and E is this. All the people that died in amenity is this. But I'm interested in the average as the question is. So I click here. I'm going to redefine my value. I'm interested in average. I click OK. This is the average. This is also helping me not to start typing average of this, and then spreading across. So if I want the rest also, for instance, what is the average of those people in isolation? When you drag and come here, this is the sum. This is the sum, not the average. So you need to click here, redefine your value field. Click average, you're here. Okay, so we will be dealing more with more on this. Okay. Okay, so I should do the average again. All right, so I am removing everything here. I'm removing everything here. My pivot table is back. Now, the good thing about pivot table is when you begin to build up your analysis and you seem to make error, you don't need to delete, you don't need to cancel everything. Just remove them from here, remove them and start afresh. So we want to answer a question is, what is the average of each of these cases, death, recovery, and co. Give the average by department. So I want my department to come under my row, which has been arranged like this. I want to look at my cases now. I click here and it comes here. Remember, I say, if you click here, it simply adds there. All of them that have numbers, by default, they go to that site. And then, what else do we have in our table that is number, department? Okay, this is the only thing. So if assuming you have region, if you have region, sure, Geoffrey, I'm going to share this with you before evening. I will share this table with you so that you start from scratch and then practice it. By the time we come later in the evening, we'll be doing more of it. Okay, so this is the only department that we have text, which is there. But that does not stop you from moving it to anywhere you want to move it. So I am just removing these things. It's either I click and drag them away, sorry. It's either I click and drag them away here, or I simply come here and uncheck. So I am interested in cases now, so I'm unchecking death. ICU is still here, that means it's still checked. So I open here, I check it, it goes off. Now, this is sum. But what I want is, I want to get my average. Okay, so what I did was to come here, I click here, it opens up the options. I want to redefine the field value for this case. I want average. I click average, I okay it. Automatically, this becomes my average cases, distributed department by department, department by department. So when I click outside, this panel disappears. When I click inside, it comes up. That's your pivot field panel. Use it to do whatever you want to do. All right, so now assuming we didn't want the department to be here, we wanted it to be in row. Maybe you were just clicking and then you saw this. And then this is not wrong if this is how you want to place it. You say this is your average case, and then for A and E, this is the average, this and this is this. You see the feature of pivot. You can change your y-axis to become your x-axis. You can change it, the column to become the rows to become the column to become the row to become the column. It's all at your discretion. Now, if you want to have multiple, so I have my department here. Let me put my depth here. This is what it's going to give you. If you can read anything out of this, it's all left for you. This is a pivot table. You do it. If there are people who can understand this better, you arrange it this way. If you want, you put it here. You look at, so what is this telling you? Is it really telling me anything? This is average. So 100 goes for this. What is it? You're just looking at your figure. This is 106, 116. It doesn't make any meaning to you. You say, no, you don't want to go with this. You want to bring this one here. Okay? Now, there is another thing, another feature of Excel. Sorry, of pivot table that we can work on. Now, assuming, let me see what we can filter. Let's put our department here. I want to bring it to filter here. Okay? And then you want to look each. Say, I'm looking at A and E. This is A and E. And you are looking at average. So for A and E alone, I can also see the debts. What do I want to see? Is it the summary? Because this is the sum, but I want the average. I redefine here, click, and then it gives me here. This is for A and E, average cases, average death. Then let me look at the recovery. I put it here. I'm also looking at the recovery, not the sum, but average. I click here. It's giving me this. What next do I need? I need isolation. Isolation. How many of them are in isolation? No, not how many, but average. Average for isolation. Average. Good. And what else again? There are 4. 1, 2. ICU, right? Now let's take ICU. ICU comes in here. And I click value. I'm interested in the average. Now, this has given me this, what I want. Now, if you are asked now, several questions, and that is what I am going to ask you to work on before we come back later in the evening. And that is going to be, you are going to plot graphs, plotting the graphs of average per each department or the sum of each department. And then you now get the average of the different departments spread. Okay, so if I want to now see, this is for A and E, accident and emergency. I want to also look at amenity, still within the same parameter. I click, it gives me the same parameter, different values for amenity on these parameters. Now I want to look at, let's see what we have in pediatric. This is pediatric ward. Let's see the lab. Now, if I want to show multiple values, I simply come here, I activate this select multiple values. I've selected lab, I've selected gynecology, and it comes like this. This is for the 2 of them. All right. So if I want my department to come here, these are the two. They are now separated this way. So I have this. If assuming you were to do one of those assignments that I requested for now, this is a gynecology. This is lab. So let me click here and amenity and nursing. Okay. So I have this. Okay. So finally on this, what I want to show us, okay, how I selected multiple is I come into this filter. Remember, this is a funnel showing that there is a filter. You will see an option. You want to select multiple. So let me exit here. Let me take this thing back here. And I come here. This feature was not selected. So I couldn't do anything. It was only one. So this is for all because there is none that is selected. So when I click here, I click A and E, it shows me the value for A and E, which is here. But when I want to do multiple, I activate select multiple items here. And then these small boxes against each department opens up for you to check. So if I want A and E and amenity, I click it. This is for the two. So, but what I want to do now is I want to now bring this in because I want to plot a graph to see how it is distributed on each. So let me say I want to have all of them for different distance. This is average. This is average. Now, another important feature that this helps you with is to insert a pivot chart. Pivot chart. This is my pivot chart. Okay, I'm going to use this. If your this thing is so clustered, if it is clustered, let me zoom out so that I can have more of this. And then let me do more of this like this. Okay. Now, if this is clustered, see what has happened. For A and E, we have the average for each of these departments, for each of these cases or parameters. We are looking at the cases, we're looking at the death, we're looking at the recovery, isolation, and ICU. Now, the reason why this is a pivot chart is on the go, you can be pivoting. This is my department. I just want to select these two. Let me see how these two fare. So I have these two. And the good thing is that you can copy this, paste it wherever you are producing your dashboard. You have answered the first question, you come here again, you choose lab. It's only lab you want to show now. How is lab distributed? This is how the cases are. And just like you do with your chart, you can here add everything you want to add, remove whatever you want to add, remove. Okay, so these are also wonderful features that you can use in PivotTable. All right, so the last thing I want us to briefly introduce today is what if analysis. Now, let me create another sheet. So you have a student, say this is, let me see, this is Victor, and Victor's he took exam in English, he took in mathematics, he took in physics. This is Jambrabi, physics, biology, and chemistry. All right, so he scored 67 here, He scored 80 here. He scored 50 here. He scored 78 here. And in physics, he scored, let's say 46. Now, the pass mark, the average that you should have, let's say, the average that you should have is, let's say, 80. All right. So, okay, now let's remove this. Let's remove this. Sorry, you have chemistry here, but no score in chemistry. So he has taken these exams and this course, and then he needs to prepare for this exam so that he's able to pass. Now let's see. So the average here now is, what we want to do is, we want to ask Excel to tell us what score does he have to score? What does he need to make in chemistry so that he'll be able to pass and proceed? So what we are looking for now, we need to say, let us get the average of the entire, including the one that is missing, 67. Sorry, 68.75. We know that he has failed. If he does not score certain amount, certain score here, he will fail. So we need Excel to tell us. I know if I ask us now, what will this be? We need to begin to look at this plus this plus this plus this plus this must be greater than 80. Okay, but so far this and this and this is equal to this. We'll begin to solve for X. Well, what we can do is to go to Excel. Let's go to data. What if analysis, and we are going to use goal seek. So set cell, okay? What is the set cell is, this is the cell that contains our function. So what value are we trying to look for? We are looking for 80. It has to be 80. Now, what cell must change to make this happen is this cell, this one. So we are looking for, what must we do? What score must come here to make it happen? Now we say, okay, Excel is working. So chemistry must be 125. So when you do this, you tell this, my friend, that, see, you have failed though, because you cannot score more than 100. So you are done. Okay? The goal seek is from data and then what if analysis. Thank you, Edward. So this is briefly what we'll still be talking more of this with different scenarios, different situations where this is handy. All right, so with this, we have been introduced to the things that we will be discussing, I think later to this evening, and then hopefully tomorrow. Tomorrow we have 2 sessions also. So, but today, these are the things that we'll be looking at. We've been able to look at creating a summary sheet. We've also looked at conditional formatting, introducing us to conditional formatting on how we can use it to flag errors before we go ahead to delve into data analysis. We have also looked at PivotTable, how we can use PivotTable to manipulate our data to get what we want. Okay, somebody is asking for me to go over the graph again. All right, the graph is, this is my pivot. Okay, so I have this. I'm going to click here. I want to work on PivotTable. Now, because I did not click on the PivotTable, it's asking me what is my table range. All right, so I don't want to run into those kind of issues. Let me click inside here and click my pivot tab. And it's telling, he has seen the table and then it's already suggesting to you. So I click OK. Now, when you are here, you can do manipulations. You know what you are looking for. You are in charge. So you are going to get what you want your people to see. You are visualizing this data based on the needs. It is possible that I've asked you for, I want to see the case by case for each department. We previously introduced this feature using the average. So I'm going to take away the averages. I'm not interested in the averages. The question that will be asked now is, department by department, how are cases, the confirmed cases, how do we find the confirmed cases? So I click here, this is the sum. So for lab, we have, let me put the labels here. Let me put my data label. Let me put it outside end, so it's here. And I also want to remove my lines, the grid lines. I don't want to see these grid lines here. All right, so this is this. And this is for the cases. And okay, this is the total. All right, so what I need to do is I need to carry, because this department, I need to bring them all out one after the other. So I can put here and click here. I'm clicking all, and all of them show like this. Let's see. Okay, so this is for my various departments. I have case, I have the sum of death, I have recovery, I have isolation, I have ICU, those in intensive care units. All right, so this is how you go about your graph. And then you can pivot, changing as the case may be. If you want to compare only two departments, you come here. Say we want to look at A and E. So these are the two departments. You see they are in different clusters. This is A and E cluster with the different parameters. This is amenity, different parameters. I can simply click this, copy this, and then paste it where I want to show. And then I'll go ahead and answer another question. Go ahead and bring out the things that I want to visualize. All right. Thanks for watching. I will pause now to get your feedbacks by text. Or if you want to speak, please just raise your hand so that we can recognize you and then you speak. Thank you. Meanwhile, let me stop recording.